We are back on your Monday afternoon. Thanksgiving's in the books, your bellies are full, and we have a full plate of soccer between today, tomorrow, and for the rest of the week. We are Golden Goal, brought to you by OddsChecker. He's Martino Puccio, State of the Play Pod co-host and a fantasy soccer writer for The Athletic. I'm Matias Weilmann from OddsChecker. Martino, we finally had our last 5 a.m. wake up of the group stage. I feel emotional. I don't know how you're feeling today.
Tired. I'm so glad that you mentioned it, because if you didn't, that was going to be the first thing I was going to say, that we're done with the 5 a.m. games. The only slight problem is you got to go double monitor tomorrow, but that's always fun too, right? We're used to that with March Madness and NFL Sundays. So I'm so excited because now we're getting down to the real intensity of the entire tournament.
Yeah, I don't know if my bosses are watching this from OddsChecker, but I was planning on watching soccer tomorrow anyway. We did have a lot of action this past weekend, so I figured we'd just take a little bit of time just to go over what your biggest storyline was, because we saw a lot change. Argentina needed to win to at least stay alive. They got the job done. Japan had an awesome opportunity, and they kind of choked a little bit. That's your biggest storyline from this weekend, right?
Yeah, I mean, aside from Messi just like shutting up the entire planet, I think for sure it's Japan, because they play a team that just lost 7-0. We saw them play terrible in qualifiers, and then they come in, they completely change the lineup and essentially look past Costa Rica. And this is why we advise for lineups to come out and then you place your bets. I thought it was incredibly arrogant, and now it's going to potentially cost them, because they have to face Spain. And the way Germany came back and battled against Spain, it dooms bad for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and my biggest storyline of the weekend kind of goes pairs pretty well with the one that you had too. You had Belgium just kind of being a disaster this weekend. I had Morocco showing out. I think both of those can be true. Morocco continues to impress in this tournament. We mentioned coming in, you called Belgium the Clippers of the World Cup. It's the same old story year in and year out. They really squandered a big opportunity.
Yeah, and even you have Kevin De Bruyne at one point saying we're too old to win the World Cup. Can you imagine a player out here saying, we are not good enough to win it? Like, seriously, Kawhi Leonard says that. Paul George says that. This is one of the best players in the world. And then they end up losing, and his teammate Vertonghen is saying, I guess our attack is too old. So he's taking a shot at him. So now you have all this friction in the dressing room that we talked about potentially with Portugal. This is why you stay away from them. And I made a meme about, The Office, where it's it's Pam saying corporate needs to find the difference between these two pictures. And it was just a logo of the Belgium national team and Gonzaga, because again, highly ranked team getting bounced earlier than they're supposed to. And just really embarrassing from Belgium this tournament.
Yeah, it's really funny that Vertonghen said that too, because he's not exactly young either. While we're talking about disappointments, let's talk about some of the most disappointing teams or players so far in this tournament. I have a feeling that a team we've been talking about has been your biggest disappointment so far.
I think it has to be Belgium. Relative to all their expectations, whether it was from us, whether it's from people, the FIFA rankings, the players themselves, I think it's just straight up embarrassing that they could. But they're fortunate. They should have lost to Canada. They lost against Morocco, and now they have to face off against Croatia. And to be honest with you, you don't want to face the way the Croats are right now, because think about it. Yep. You had a Canadian head coach and manager say, F Croatia, and it basically woke up a beast. They played fine against Morocco, but that showing right there could have been a lot worse against Canada in terms of scoreline. So, I mean, it's got to be Belgium, because it's looking bleak.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the group there for my biggest disappointment. And look, this feels unfair, because we said that Canada had big expectations, but that they were young and we didn't exactly know what we were going to get. Maybe it's unfair to call them the biggest disappointment, but I'm going just purely off of what we've seen on the pitch. I mean, at points, they looked worse than 4-1 against Croatia. But in that first half, until they got scored on, they looked organized. And then you get scored on once, you get scored on again in 5 minutes, and everything just fell apart for them. They all of a sudden looked like a non-World Cup team as soon as they got scored on. And you mentioned it. They probably should have at least tied or beaten Belgium in that first match. I just think because of the talent and what we've seen, it's kind of been a disappointment for them. Is that too harsh from me?
No, I don't think it's too harsh because of the way they responded
Thank you.
after negative things went negatively in their direction. They miss a
Hmm.
penalty kick, right? And then all of a sudden it's lost against Belgium. And not getting rewarded penalties as well. That's the thing. You go up again against Croatia and you just don't respond. But that's all a
Yeah.
part of the learning process, right? We're talking about since 1986. So a couple generations worth of Canadians didn't even play in this. So no one can really
Mhm.
relate to the type of experience. They haven't won a trophy over here in CONCACAF yet. No Nations League, no Gold Cup. I guess this is the regression to the mean just a little bit, but I think this was amazing experience for all of them. They still have a chance to get 3 points. Like, this isn't completely out of the question. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But Morocco, there's so much more on the line for them.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Let's get to what we saw today in our matches because there was a little lack of goal scoring for a while. And then, anyone that woke up for Cameroon and Serbia this morning said, yeah, enough with that. Ends 3-3 in a draw. There was a lot of drama going on with Cameroon before this game even started. You want to give us an abridged version of for anyone who might have not woken up at 5 a.m.?
Oh man. Okay, put it. I'm
If
trying.
you
I'm trying
can.
to. Okay, who was it? Was it Vontae Davis that retired at halftime?
Yeah, for the Colts.
That's
Uh
that's yeah, exactly.
huh.
That's basically what happened right here with Andre Onana, who's the starting goalkeeper for Cameroon. Had a disagreement in the way he kind of plays the goalkeeper position, and he said, "I want you to change your style," essentially. So he tells him that in the middle of the World Cup to change who he is. They beefed, and he didn't end up starting. So the starting goalkeeper and one of the best goalkeepers in that group is sitting out, who would have saved the second goal that was scored by Serbia. So instead of a 3-2 Cameroon win, we're looking at a 3-3 draw, and things are still up in the air in terms of qualification. So right now, we're seeing more friction there, but we did learn that Cameroon can put up goals, and that's what's most important when you have to go into a final match day with qualification on the line.
Yeah, we're going to get to Brazil in a little bit when they played with Switzerland, but that group is very up in flux after Brazil. Our second match of the day featured a lot of goals. Again, Ghana 3, South Korea 2. This was a disappointing turn of events for South Korea, who we thought showed promise in their first game. They're not mathematically eliminated, but it's probably curtains for them at this point, a 3-2 loss.
Well, listen. I think it's a silver lining that Portugal will obviously we'll talk about them, but them picking
Hmm.
up that victory is massive because they could really sit pretty at the top of that group and not really have to worry about too much in the round of 16. So we'll see if there's some rotation. I anticipate Ronaldo to sit, just for anyone who was wondering. But anyways, it's disappointing. You get a 0-0 draw. It was one of the worst games against Uruguay. You had a lead in this, you came back, and then you end up losing it. Kudos to Ghana. I mean, really battle tested. Even in the match against Portugal, they
Hmm.
do end up losing by 1 goal, but they were there to the very last minute. And I think there's something to be said when a player does the Ronaldo celebration in front of his face that they're really not scared of the circumstances or the
Yeah.
consequences of this World Cup. So if you like betting on people who have nothing to lose, then maybe that might be a team to look at. But again, really disappointing for South Korea.
Some call it bold, some call it idiotic. I'll leave that up to you at that point. The third game was Brazil and Switzerland. Brazil wins 1-0. First game without Neymar looked pretty good. Switzerland's a tough team. Brazil does win, though, and then punches their ticket into the round of 16. I guess the biggest takeaway from here had to be how Brazil looked without Neymar, right?
Yeah, it's funny because we talked about it in the previous show to the tournament that
Hmm.
Brazil did win Copa America without Neymar once. So, I mean, we're talking about a
Hmm.
major tournament won without one of the 5 best players in the world when healthy. So we see him go down. They have a lot more depth than usual. I think the change with Gabriel Jesus coming on fits a lot better with the types of players that they have without Neymar. And Bruno Gomes, who plays for Newcastle, is such a great player. He made a massive impact. And again, it just marginally off on a Vinicius Jr. goal. That would have stood if it wasn't for just some, weird. It was so funny because I had explained to 30 people why that was an offsides because they're just looking at Vinny Jr. the entire time when it had to do with Richarlison. But the point is this: Brazil still took care of business. And if you thought they were just going to walk all over Switzerland, you haven't been paying attention the past couple of tournaments or to Golden Goal. So the fact of the matter is this: Switzerland are still a really difficult team, and they were battling against a Brazil side that still, despite no Neymar, had a ton of talent on the field. So in the end, good result for Brazil. They're through. They don't have to worry about forcing Neymar to play. They can still have him rested and then move from there.
Yeah, and they will probably lock up that top spot, or actually, they have locked up that top spot, depending on how things go behind them.
Hmm.
And we had our last game of the day. It was Portugal and Uruguay. This was probably going to be the battle before the tournament started for the group. Portugal has looked good so far, Uruguay has not, and the result showed that.
Yeah, finally. I had a great day when I placed my bets. And it figures when we don't have a show to give out advice for it.
Right? That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I had them correct score 2-0. That's the second time this tournament that's hit. But I also had both teams to score no and over 1.5 goals. So that was a really nice hit as
Mhm.
well. Because Uruguay, let's face it, like this is a lack of creation. We're seeing even when they
Mhm.
get their opportunities, a guy like Bentancur can't finish. Portugal, this is just really impressive. They're still creating. Their defense is stout. They're not giving up too many chances. There was that one opportunity. Their goalkeeper is great. Losing Mensch might hurt them in the long run, but they do have versatile and inverted fullbacks. Cancelo can play on the left side. Guerrero plays, who you saw feature, plays for Dortmund. These are high-level players still. Portugal has the depth. It's really just about Fernando Santos. But now, if they could rest Ronaldo, I think that's massive for him. And they can get some game time for some of these other guys. But they're in a great position, and their side of the bracket, like we've said, is favorable.
Mhm. I'm getting big vibes of Jordan's last year on the Bulls. A little dramatic, not quite that much, but hey, we all hate each other. But let's band together for one last one. Before we get into our action for tomorrow and give you your best bets, just want to remind you as the days tick down for November, time is running out to win $500 on us, and all you have to do is subscribe to our page on YouTube at OddsChecker US if you haven't done so far. And if you comment on any recent video, it could be this one, it could be anyone that we have posted over the last month, you're automatically entered to win another 500 or $500. It's an extra entry. So again, subscribe for one entry and then comment on a video for a second entry. We're literally offering you $500 free. There is no reason to do it. But let's get to a chance for you to win some money tomorrow with our best bets. Again, we don't have a 5 a.m. wake up, which is fantastic. I'm here for it. I'm all good after our Thanksgiving long weekend, which should have had rest, but of course we didn't. And we have Netherlands and Qatar. Qatar is already eliminated from the tournament, but there's a lot on the line for Netherlands. Which way are you going here? I think you're going to lean towards Netherlands, right?
Yeah, yeah. And again, I have this Netherlands to win to nil. I'm not super confident in overs in this. I did pick over 2.5. That's just
Mm.
nothing to do with the Netherlands necessarily. It's more to do so with what Qatar can do to stop them. I don't think there's anything to play for but pride. Again, that could help them out. But in my
Mm.
opinion, when the Netherlands have so much on the line, to berth into the next round, winning the group still potentially, I have over 2.5 with that parlayed with a Cody Gakpo anytime goal. That's plus 246 if you use the odds checker system. So if you have the ability to play something like that, because Cody alone is plus 130 in most spots. But the Netherlands to win to nil is just a straight that you could look at. The combinations are totally up to you. Again,
Mm.
it could be one of those things 1-2-3-0. They've kind of shown that the firepower is lacking, but Qatar is not that great. But that's what I have for this one.
Yeah, this is a hard one for me because I went into last game saying, okay, Qatar has to score at some point, right? And they got that goal out of the way. Um, and it's dangerous because you play for nothing besides pride at this point. But if you had been playing for pride to this point, it's not a very proud team, and obviously that is not true. I'm ragging on them, but look, if Netherlands had nothing to play for and had beaten Ecuador, that's one thing. But they still need to win here. They still need a result. I kind of like Netherlands -2 if you want to get a little frisky and think that they are just going to pour it on and do everything they can. Netherlands to score first is also an interesting one. But yeah, you talk about it. Gakpo has a lot more value on other books. Shameless plug for the odds checker grid to make sure you're getting the best value. I just think there are a lot of things up in the air. Maybe both teams to score isn't the worst thing, but I think Netherlands in the end probably wins this pretty comfortably. We're going to stay within the group here. Again, the other 10 a.m. start, it's Ecuador and it's Senegal. The winner of this one is going to advance. We mentioned Netherlands has a lot to play for with 4 points. Ecuador and Senegal both have both have 4 points. I beg your pardon. Let me start that one over. Ecuador has 4 points. Senegal has 3. I'm starting to get all my teams mixed up here. So both teams have a lot to play for. Where you going here? Because Ecuador has some firepower. Senegal has shown a lot of fight over the last two games.
The real sexy pick, I guess, has been Ecuador for most people, for most of the public that I've talked to, and rightfully so because of how they play against the Netherlands, how they came out against the host nation in the opening match. That's a lot to be said about that. And now they're facing defending AFCON champions. For me, I still kind of like leaning towards Senegal. I don't think they played that bad in that match against the Netherlands. They took care of their business against Qatar. Like it wasn't any type of match that they were like stretching out. They don't look as sharp as I thought they would, but this is just me personally seeing this go through for Senegal. But again, potentially looking at Senegal to qualify is another thing that you could always look at, because it doesn't necessarily have to be they have to win this match. If the odds aren't in their favor for that, or that's not something you want to look at, you could just simply do a qualify. And again, Ecuador, they just need a draw with this. And they're such a gritty team, man, that they're able to just battle with something like that. And you can argue as well, Enter Valencia, there might be 2 or 3 players better than him at this World Cup right now. So the fact that they have him on fire on their side, and I know that's something you like. So I think it bodes well for them. I'd say Ecuador have better energy heading into this, but I'm just not counting out Senegal just because of the respect I have for them.
Yeah, probably result-wise, I'm staying away from this one. You mentioned it. I'm not overthinking this one all too much in terms of goal scorers. There's been someone who's been scoring very well, and that's Enter Valencia, and that's someone who I'm going to take because you can get him at pretty good value, all things considered, considering how many times he's already put the ball in the back of the net. Rooting-wise, I'm going to go Senegal here just because my pre-tournament bets was Netherlands and then Senegal to qualify in that straight order. But look, I agree with you. This really could go either way. Ecuador has played really well. They've been a gritty team, and they've taken care of business. Netherlands, objectively, talent-wise, is a better team than they are, and they did what they had to do to earn that draw and keep themselves in a good position. We're going to move on now onto our other group. So we have that 10 a.m. window, and we have the 2 p.m. window. The first game that we have in Group B is Wales and England. You're going to start seeing a bit of a trend here. These are some let's just say politically charged match day threes in Group B. First, you have Wales and England. You warned us, Martino, before this tournament started that for this group specifically, you're going to see some teams trying to play their best matches. This is definitely going to be one for Wales, who have a big road to climb if they want any chance here. England needs a win to qualify, just to lock it up, get that first seed. They are leading the group, though. Where are you looking here? Are you looking at some maybe goals galore?
Yeah, so I think the over's working. And again, this is just going to be something we've seen a lot of 0-0 draws, but there's a lot of desperation across the board. We're talking about nearly 30 out of 32 teams are going to have an opportunity to advance. So with that, how do you not put everything on the line? This is the World Cup. Wales, we don't know when they're coming back, man. This might be it for a long time. I might be applying for Social Security the next time. But then again, the World Cup's expanding. The World Cup's expanding, so you never know. But the point is this. This is it for Gareth Bale. This is their golden generation. We talk about Belgium. I think they're going to go for it. And I've said parlay this over 2.5 with the Netherlands match. It gets you to plus 200 on Caesars, which the grid says has the best value. So rocking with something like that is definitely somewhere I love to look. Wales is just going to keep this match open. We saw them give up a couple of goals. USA's lack of finishing is the reason why that one was not higher scoring. And now we have England. Obviously, they have the best attackers in the group. They have some of the best depth in the entire tournament. And this is a rivalry. This matters. This is a regional thing. This whole group is a rivalry at this point. So for me, it's overs. Do I see Wales getting something because they're going to keep attempting? Yes. And I know that's something you like, so I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, I honestly, for me, I think we don't see a draw. So I think the over 2.5 works because I like both teams to score. I think you talked about it. Wales is desperate, but England is the better team. They're going to force them into some mistake. Wales is just going to have to throw 10 players to attack. And I see like an 83rd minute 2-1 or 3-1 goal here for England. But let's get to the big kahuna because the U.S. could have won over the weekend to lock things up. They looked like the better team against England, but ended up with the draw. It rarely is as simple as win and you have your spot. That's the spot that the U.S. finds themselves in. You look at that bottom line, though, they have not performed well during match day threes. Give me some keys. Tell me what you're looking at here for the U.S. to advance to the round of 16.
Well, I don't love anything specifically for this match
Great. Good start.
except the risk-free stuff that you're offered. The good news is this: the 5 points exactly is still alive for
Mm-hmm.
this one, and the round of 16 knockout is still alive. This is still one of the most difficult games. Like I can't even. It's overall like emotions, tactics, and just who the hell is going to score a goal for America is my question. This has been the question. We said it before the tournament. They still just have one goal. The finishing sucked against England. It was great to get a result against them. They outplayed them. That's huge. Iran is still there though. They scored 2 goals in stoppage time. They've scored 4 goals overall. They have more firepower up front. I'm worried about it. There's decent plus money bets on unders because if you think it's going to be that sort of tactical battle, see this is the interesting thing when teams have the opportunity to qualify. There's two sides to the coin. There's the Wales going for everything, and then there's the Iran playing it nice, and we're going to put ourselves in the best position to end up winning or getting points out of this because Iran, they don't have to win. They don't have to. If they're in a comfortable spot and they're controlling the game against the U.S., then they don't have to go forward. But obviously you want to because you don't want to put anything up for risk, like say Wales end up winning, right? Then they're out. And that's the really difficult thing here. For me, I would look towards unders, like under 1.5. Would Iran win that game? Does the U.S. win a close game like that? There's other 2-0s that you could look at as well. I don't see this being a really high scoring match, and I don't see it coming from Americans. I do think there will be opportunities, but that's solely up to you to decide if you think the finishing is going to show up. For me, I just don't see it with Team USA. If they win, I see a 1-0 for the US. I don't see this sort of like 2-1 or 3-2 type of game. I just don't think they can match that unless it comes down to penalties and stuff like that, where they're getting penalties in that. There's obviously not penalties to progress to the next round, but that's the only way I see this going positive for the U.S. It was a good tournament, but they lacked the thing that we knew they lacked. And also, Greg Berhalter, you can't rely on the guy. He's not playing Gio Reyna. He's saying that he's injured with an ankle, and then it comes out and says that Gio wasn't actually hurt, and then there's rumors saying that they told him to lie about the injury. So we don't know what's going on there. We don't know if that's friction. We don't know if it's bad tactics. You don't want to bet on unknown. So for me, this is solely a gut thing if you're going with this because everything is screaming that the U.S. isn't going to do this in terms of a win or a comfortable one. So we'll see what happens. The midfield has been unbelievable. I will say that.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. I mean, they looked better than England. They should have won that, but it's still a positive to come away with at least 1 point. I like the U.S. to score first here, or yes, to score in the first half. Call me naive if you want. Honestly, it's fair considering what we've seen to this point. But I really do think they will come out as the better team, come out desperate, and it may finally translate into goal scoring. I think I have at least seen enough to feel good about putting, half a unit, even a quarter of a unit on that because I'm not overly confident. Again, it's me being naive and, like you said, going with your gut. And what a turnaround from Iran, too. I mean, let's just mention the fact that they got blown out in their first game, and then the fact that they are contending for a qualifying spot, or heck, if things go well.
I mean, two goals in stoppage time. 2 goals in stoppage time and all the controversy surrounding their country. I mean, besides the host country, there's all the talk is about them and what's going on over there. So it's clearly not easy for them. And again, if you like storylines, you like narratives, that's something to rally behind. But I guess if you're living in the U.S. and watching this, I understand why you wouldn't. But again, it's about winning bets, right? And that's why we're here. So if that's something you want to push towards, if you're a narrative-based bettor, God bless you. I do agree with it sometimes. I think it works. It does work for people. There's no like exact method to how to do things, but I think it's something that you got to look out for again, or even, draw no bet. If you want to take that out of the equation, I think draw no bets, by the way, just an overarching point for the match day 3, I think is something that a lot of people should consider because that's something that you're not going to hopefully see from teams that if they're drawing that they're okay with that. No one is going to be okay with a draw at this point. The majority of teams aren't. So I just think that's kind of important to note.
Yeah, if I had to pick a draw no bet for anyone, it would be this last one. So not exactly inspiring for the U.S., but again, definitely a chance against a tough Iran team for match day 3. We have 10 o'clock matches and 2 o'clock matches, so please don't wake up at 4:30 or do whatever you want. We will be back tomorrow to break down what we saw and what's coming the next day as more teams continue to punch their ticket into the round of 16. He's Martino Puccio. I'm Matias Weilmann. Golden Goal on OddsChecker has you covered every single day. See you in about 24 hours.